Okay, I think we are live. And I want to go through and I thought it'd actually be on time today, but I was setting up at the last minute um, Netfinity 7000 top cam and just a little bit of a another webcam over the top of the Netfinity 7000 just to kind of show. I wasn't sure for a while on how I'd go through and do anything. In fact, I may go through and kind of adjust video around just to show the card insertion. I'm not really sure if I'll go through and want to do any video. So let's go through. Okay. Their clicks way down there, but active. So let's go through and hide that. Let's go, yeah, good studio view. Back through. Okay, thank you, John, for telling me the audio and video are good. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to see how stilted the camcorder is. I've got that stuff set up. Still moving stuff around. And amazingly, I started eating my beef jerky. Get that off the bench. I think I'm set otherwise. And as people can see, I move the Cisco off the side. I need to get the battery still for this. And I've actually got out my, talking about token ring bridging, I have my 2210 out as well. And I know that there is other people around that have these for the bridging as well. This is effectively, one of the Cisco interface boards with token ring and the 10 base T Ethernet AUIs, the WAN connection, and we can get into looking at that a little bit later on as well, maybe for a possible bridging solution. But I'm happy everybody's attending. I've gone through, of course, my Netfinity is always tucked down here. Interesting thing is I'm going through and actually starting to turn it off. There's no reason to run it full time. It's 220 volts as it is. But I was running it with the thought of keeping the space warm, and I don't really have to worry about that aspect anymore. Yep, additional Anchor webcam that we ended up not needing. I had to go through and get my clip at home though for going through, because I was going to pull out the tripod here, and I thought, well, this tripod's going to get in the way of me going through and getting inside the Netfinity 7000. But probably good to keep the space. I pushed the cart over a little bit just to keep the space around the Netfinity 7000. And I didn't want to be bumping into a tripod, so my little angle with staying up here on the copy machine, pointing down towards the Netfinity, does real well for this instance. And so let me get to, I'm going to bring that back up here. I don't know whether to go through on the studio side, whether I can. Whether I can size this off. That might be good. Size that off. On the side here. How it works. And oh, no worries, you. Going through, we're actually just getting set up. I mean, I did some last minute. I actually got up more on time today and started getting set up for this a lot earlier. And I'm going to talk about even a little bit of the aspects of the housekeeping. I don't know what is necessarily visible. Let me get that. So there, I'm doing good where I can see how I'm showing up on the camera there. I don't know why my chair is sitting up so hot too. I don't know necessarily that I want to come up on the camcorder or any adjustments like that this late in the game. I've got my keyboard, of course, for the Netfinity here, and I can go through and I can flip over to the screen of the Netfinity 7000 firing up. It takes about 5 minutes to actually start up with all the RAM and everything else, checking over things. As I say, I don't know that I necessarily want a video capture for a better presentation of seeing what's on the screen. That should be visible, and we'll just have to see if I can zoom in or not. I do have the, and see, I don't know if these are even good. I haven't tested them, but I have the PCI FDDI. And these are actually for, they're marked with the RS6009-F. And I would think that they would maybe be PC compatible, but then again, that's a big unknown. Whether PC has drivers or whatever. Much smaller transceivers, but still, and I've got to go through and look at the optical links and things like that and the switches for that. Just a bunch of RAM on these boards, but things like that. But I have these as the fallback adapters. We have to. And I've gone through. Of course, I have the 3Com. Now it's not a. I guess I can look at my screen, and that's the one I got in the mail. I have to learn on my field of view here for the two, or for the new camera view. And then there's the box. I have the old card in the box here. So and we'll go through and we'll put it in the slot. The housekeeping I'm going to talk about is where putting the brackets in place. And I've got actually, as people can see, kind of this this SCSI header that I don't have connected to the main board, and we're going to pull that bracket out. The EISA slots are towards the top of the camera view here, and of course PCI in the middle. I've got some token ring and some other boards in there, but we're going to go through and pull these brackets. What I'm talking about for housekeeping is I need to get a block out, or putting the card in. I can move things around. But I need to get the back of this case blocked out, because having things like mice around, mice will actually get in those back bracket holes. And it's bad news when they do. They'll get in there and they'll, with especially with the horizontal planer like this, they'll get in there and they'll do droppings. But so I'm going to go through. I'm going to take just a little. I'll get the screwdriver out, get a little bit prepared here, and I'm actually going to take just a little bit of a break here. I'll be right back. I'll mute myself. And it's just passing on some information to somebody, just to make them understand that I'm running a live stream. So, how I scrubbed the thing. I thought it was back far enough, but I made it live stream. Okay, I don't know if that was live. The moving up the boom, and she's not talking to me. It's supposed to mute the audio. Yeah, indeed they do. And I actually have a picture from yesterday. I posted on Facebook that I have a USB IBM mouse that has the rubberized scroll wheel, and they nod on the exposed section of the scroll wheel. So you'll have to figure out why my Anchor headset okay. Yeah, it's not my microphone is not muting like it's supposed to. But anyway, we'll get to that. Nothing important in the conversation. I just I was talking to my uncle, so, and we'll go through. I'm gonna get this, and I don't know the reason. If I put this in here, wow, and these screws are tight. I may have to go through. These are slotted screws, of course, for the go through and see how that shows. Again, my field of view is very much off. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to pull this bracket. This is just a bracket that ties in. There is SCSI connections here and from the main board, but it puts us out to the front, and I might go through and might be able to actually route one of those selections instead of having the front bay, just to go through, and that's the thought of getting a SCSI connection off the back of the system. Because I think for all the Netfinity stuff, all the ports on the back, they don't necessarily have they don't bring the SCSI around to the back. And I'm going to go through, there's a little bit of the method to my madness here for the way, and I could put the ESA cards, or excuse me, the single adapter that I have, I could put that in any of these 3 ESA slots. But I'm going to put it on, I think the one, let's leave that a little bit loose for now. This is actually the server RAID. And even with the machine powered down, it has CC in there right now. Of course, the machine supplying power. It has a battery in here. Actually has a remote link that you can set up to tie in. And as I say, this is a 220 volt system. Let's take that bracket off. And so it's interesting to see when that powers up, because it gives the postcodes and stuff like that too. Now, I'll get a bracket. I'll leave that one open for the PCI area. And there are these guides. Of course, I don't have any of the interconnect cables or the equipment otherwise. And ESIA, and I have to see how this is seating. You know, it has the longer fingers, has the ISA connections, but then has the longer fingers for the additional signals, making this a 32-bit adapter. And the seat, sometimes a little bit harder. And I haven't worked with ESA. Now, a little bit of the background here is that my main exposure to ESIA is through the PC server line from IBM. Okay, there we go. There, seats. And of course, I have the on the IBM PS2 group, and that's marked as for the PC servers as well, being that like the PC Server 500 is like a Windows, excuse me, it's a server 95, excuse me, PS2 model 95. And that's interesting with this adapter sitting higher. The guides and the Netfinity 7000. The one nice thing about it is it has room at the top of these adapters, and nothing more than this card adapter actually just holds down that close edge of the adapter. But the Netfinity 7000, if I can get my thoughts collected, is actually just a remade and updated PC Server 704. And I actually do have a 704 as well. I'm going to go through as I power up. I'll probably shift camera views. But my PC Server 704, I have actually running Windows NT 4.0 2.0 server. And so if this adapter doesn't work here on Windows 2000, Windows 2000 went through and told, what I can do is I can actually just size this. Okay. And because the codes aren't really visible as this thing boots up, I'm going to go to VGA, and let's go through and power up. And it'd be interesting even to see, I don't know if I'm going to even be presented with the adapter setup or anything like that. So going through, yeah, an indication here. I'll be out of frame as this thing goes through and boots up to be zoomed in. Wanted to go through and set up that to kind of show what who knows what it'll be used for. I have my own supplied thumbnail, I guess, for this live stream, so it won't be selecting something mid content. Now, I don't know, long term, I don't know if I'm going to adjust this bracket or not. Go through to, and yes, the bracket even has an EC level. Wow. Got IBM FRUs and things like that on it. We're to the 4F, testing the RAM. As I say, this takes some time to boot. This machine has the 4 gigabyte of RAM, and as it is, of course, there's one processor card here, the other one is here, and the memory card is all the way over here. And of course, this top metal bracket comes off and up just for holding those cards down. Okay. Almost to the point of, excuse me, Russ was the one that talked about the mice sucking around computers. I don't know if I identified that as the comment from you or not, but I'm sure Hugh agrees. Just about everybody I can see agreeing on how mice are around systems. So there we see the Pentium Pro information. Okay, going through for the SCSI initialization. And as I say, I wouldn't think with the way things are set up, I don't know how really the process of this going through to, if you add an ESI adapter to it, or the older PC Server 704, on whether it takes you through the utility for, clearly in configuration sense, you would have that. The worst it's going to do, of course, is those. Okay, so press F1 for setup, and it's identifying in slot 2. Okay. And see, I don't know. Peripheral configuration. See, I don't know. Not really a section here necessarily on EISA. I was actually accidentally pressing the enter key. It doesn't even have deeper plug and play configuration. It's interesting that it's got boot with PNP OS. And see, it didn't prompt us for a diskette or anything like that. So I really don't know why it has it takes. And of course, this is going to go through the boot up sequence again. That's going to be interesting. I wonder if I just should have had this set to auto or something like that, maybe. We'll see the next time. And maybe I should have just gone through and done the boot cycle. This is a whole new world, effectively, for me in how it's going to through. And I guess I can probably get me on the screen that way. Good. Because I won't have any overlap with it being zoomed in. A little bit larger. I hope that this is being informative enough. There's just some stuff still that we're in a gray area that I just. And I wanted to go through and adding in, of course, there are token ring adapters that are ESIA as well. But I have the ISA, I have the PCI token ring. If I wanted to go through and add more token ring adapters to the Netfinity 7000, there was the thought that having a board on there also to support the 4 megabit per second, if I had to do DHCP server or something else, that we'll still have to see kind of on the bridging between token ring and Ethernet. Okay, so finally counted the RAM. Probably going to give the same warning. I mean, there's no real setup that we went through. Maybe an automatic mode would go through and have it bypass that error message or like an unattended boot. Token ring ROM initializing. see all the length of this boot up process. Okay. I'm just going to go through and escape to boot because who knows, there may be, maybe there's a, you know, a configuration diskette or something else that has to be run a process. I'm just not sure how they handle it on the PC Server 704 and the Netfinity 7000 in the case of adding on. And we're going to see how Windows goes through and identifies this, or whether it does. I would hope it does. So in this live stream, we may have a whole bunch of instances of just booting up time and time again here as we go through and change adapters or whatever else. Still being a little bit, trying to be a little bit safe about anti-static, or the, excuse me, the static discharge to go through and ground myself. And I even have my token ring hub off to the side. I have it powered down. I'm not running it. There's not any real aspect of going through and a need to have it powered up right now. And of course, without the hub going, that connectivity there will fail. I do have it linked into Ethernet otherwise. Okay. And this, I do not have any, I just have it, the administrator account, blanked out password. In this instance, is all I've got set up. Now, we didn't see anything to the identification for the EISA adapter. And I don't think that there'd be an aspect of going through with a hardware wizard, but we'll just have to see. You would think that this would be identified as a network adapter. But ultimately, an ESA should default to a particular configuration mode as well. It's just like, it's like the not even seeing the adapter. And I'm trying to see where, if it was, it would identify, it identifies the PCI bus. ESA Direct Memory Access Controller really is the only thing that identifies the ESA bus. Hardware Wizard. So we're going to add troubleshoot device. you know, and I'm very familiar with the microchannel setups and where it prompting for the reference diskette and things like that. Um, see, there's that PCI to ESI bridge. And it lists the detected items. We don't really have any problem with the let's see, search for the new hardware. If Windows is not detecting it otherwise, and there just may not be the HAL, the subsystem, to go through and identify, okay, a configuration CD. Okay, I'll have to figure out where that CD is or how to source that. Hopefully, it's archived. There should be a process with the 704 as well, and that's saying even if it's set up, like maybe it has to be all configured for Windows to detect it further. Let's see. I mean, this is going to be a network adapter again. And you would think that, well, I don't know, seeing the list, of course, it's the 3COM. We may just get in an instance where we have to put in the PCI adapter. Okay, so there you have 3COM, all your Etherlink, fast Etherlink, and that is it for the 3COM section. Of course, there's the have disk and things like that. I do have the diskette that likely doesn't have Windows 2000. I think that if we go any further with this, and I probably want to do it maybe on the PC 704 first, I think that is something for another day. I think that we're at this point we're just going to go to the fallback of having these PCI adapters and plugging them in for the first time, of having them, who knows, for maybe even decades, and going through and seeing how they're identified. This is a process. It'll get to the point where the old school thing where it tells me it's safe to shut down the system. And I may go through and just put the SCSI bracket back in place just to fill the void and finally get everything sealed in there. So safe to turn off the computer. Okay, we're going to go back to have that system run, and let's go through. Why didn't I have that come back up on the screen? Okay, my clear click's ahead of that. Okay. Okay. So here's deactivate the clear click. change that. I want to go through myself, even though I'm going to kind of be probably a little bit off screen effectively. But, and really, we should probably go through and could have pulled the power entirely for this, the 220 power. It does still have the inside of the system powered up for the fact of the displaying the codes, the CC codes. I know that's probably not a good aspect to see that. Okay. So I mean, in the real world, we should go through and actually pull power. I guess I still would be one bracket. Well, no, I wouldn't. It'd be one screw. Actually, two screws. No, one screw shy of. I mean, I've got other brackets around, but we can probably just get this back in place. I'll even have to locate the screw for it. I don't know when I would have gone through and pulled the bracket and the back bracket and screw for this, of why I wouldn't have had these fully populated. This did sit in my shop for a long time. And mice were around. Roaches are another thing they'll get into any opening like that. And of course, they can get into smaller areas like a fan area to get in between the grill. I can actually put the and there are some EISA adapters that are taller that really take up a lot of the room with the components that they put on them with the capabilities. Probably just pulling one of these off the top here. That almost is like a just a vinyl. Well, I don't know if that's vinyl or that's just a ceramic portion. Apparently does not need effectively a heat sink. It just has that. Okay, so we get finally that back sealed from any potential mice or anything like that. And so we've got that in place. You can go through. Like I say, you can see the digits in that offset kind of go through for the postcard functionality of that server card. Here, click back in place. Self. Probably a good size. The way it's zoomed in, I can certainly shrink it down later on. And we didn't go through the configuration. There's no effective need to remove the ESIA config when you're taking an adapter out. Although that would sense that configuration just like microchannel as well. And EISA is very similar. For all that, it's very similar to microchannel in the fact that it's got that typically a 2K, or even in the like microchannel does in some instances, where some machines have more of an extended CMOS, even up to 8K of extended CMOS. Okay, automatically, and see, that's interesting for the 704 being an older effective system than the Netfinity 7000. And of course, I have the diskette on that. I have to even see how much difference there is between the systems, because really between the 704 and the 7000, they just changed around some of the positioning. My PC Server 704 has quad Pentium Pro 166 with the standard like 256 KB L1 cache. I think I have like maybe a gigabyte, maybe 2 gigabyte. It's a 72 pin SIMS, whereas it's the DIMMs on the Netfinity 7000. So there is some upgrades that IBM did for changing between the 704 and 7000, but as that PC server line went and became the Netfinity series. So, and of course, there won't be any thing on boot up for the PCI adapter, but Windows should go through. And these don't have any indicator. Well, I guess they have the indicator lights on the back. I can't see if anything like that is lit in these instances, and that may just be the link related aspect as well. And it'd be really interesting if these for the functionality of these adapters, because I don't know why they were pulled. I'm just purely guessing that under a Windows PC is able to have these and run these, being that they're with the R6000 label on the back. And it takes longer in the character-based screen area than it does for the GUI section. And of course, most of that being the counting of that 4 gigabyte of RAM. There's not any way to bypass that presentation. The BIOS is actually fairly simplified. Even the display adapter on here is an old Cirrus Logic ISA design. And so it can actually go through. It's a server class video. And the and for the same thing on the FDDI side, I want to get something set up to be like a DHCP server. In this case, I'm not going to be as lucky as like Token Ring, being able to do like a transparent bridging or anything else. That I will still need a DHCP server or some other network services, likely. I mean, I could set static addresses as well with the TCP/IP stack. But let's see what this does. Okay, so ATM network controller and Windows 2000 should. Okay, so it's going to get. And I don't have any CDs for these. Let's just go through and see if, like, a Windows update process can find these. I don't have anything in the diskette drive or CD-ROM drive, of course. Okay, so unable to locate a driver for this device. And it has the choice of going through to disable the device or skip driver installation. So this is going to go through. I'm just going to do a skip. Who knows if I encounter can look around and maybe find the diskette or a CD-ROM for that. Probably a CD-ROM in this case. The flagging I'm getting in the corner, that's the Token Ring hub, like say, without it being powered up. And I might go through and do that effectively. I might go through and get the Netfinity sealed back up. Even with that adapter not having the screw, that's fine for now. And I did have, I brought in a regular serial cable for a console cable. One of the things, I probably won't latch that in the back or anything like that. Let's get the hub back up on top. Oh. But I wanted to go through and console into this hub again, and I read up. Of course, I watched the past video with the hub and talking about where the console screen is available as you go through and boot up, mainly to reset the password and things like that, but not afterwards. And I want to still get into that hub and figure out if it has the ability to set up VLANs. The thought of I'll pull up the PCI adapter, one of the other ones. At least I have 5 of those. I had 5 of those around and installed one machine. Let's get a power cord for the hub. Get it powered on. Get my video back. Kind of get the lab back in place, and we'll just leave that PCI adapter in place. It's not going to hurt anything for all that. Get the hub powered back up. I go through, get not zoomed in, out. Okay. And I can probably leave myself up field of view. I see what field of view I have anyway on the side. Let's reduce that, and let's actually take me off screen. It should just a view like that. And these look to be in fairly good shape. I haven't had them in anti-static packaging. Of course, the other side of things is looking up them from the perspective of the R6000 tag, and so this is the, even for it, it'd be nice to see the ASIC FRU that's on the ASIC chip. I think I showed this before, the IBM 9314 being the manufacturer plant, HP transceiver, the 9T, it's got this HST. I think HST is whether it's that primary or secondary loop. Back of the adapter. That. So that would be maybe like a 44H 6556. Could be FRU that's, yeah, the 44H 6556. Looks to be the effective, and then you have another one there, 91H0352. And for those that are not familiar, with the IBM part numbers and FRUs, it's a fantastic identifier for a 7 character. Typically, 6 of those are the numbers. It's 2 numbers. The third character is, in the modern age now, it's typically a letter. And although around the PC time frame, they did have that as just another number. So those older PC FRU part numbers can be a challenge to look up at the time. And we've seen the X go away for the token ring. And of course, clearly that PCI adapter won't show up at all. But I don't have my ThinkPad powered up or anything like that. We've got both the token ring and Ethernet showing. Shows the 60 megabit per second link there. I do have my, I've got it, don't have it powered up, but I do have power to it. Go through just to make sure that everything is, going through correctly from the way I've got it set up. The cable I'm going into right now, the console cable I'm from the ThinkPad, is I'm going into the hub, and I should go in and start looking at this, perhaps doing a live stream on the 2210, the bridging aspect for it, because the bridging on this should be really easy to set up. And we could do that for the 4 megabit side as well. Not that I'm going to, I still have to address the Cisco as well. So as I say, I do have this with a token ring that we can go through and just to make sure that it does the communication with the HCP server. Ethernet, we have that 100 megabit per second. I'm going to get into for the date time. Again, this system, the battery backup for it is not functioning correctly. Talk about batteries here. Not that it really matters for exact time. And we will start up Windows 98. Get to the so yeah, it'd be interesting to see if the ESI setup, if we could get that recognized on the Netfinity 7000. I think, as I say, might be good just to try that on the 704 first, and make sure that it goes through and recognized and see what drivers and things like that before getting back, and whether ESI adapter under Windows 2000, as long as it's configured, ran that config file of whether that would make it work or not. I would think probably not. Should have the DHCP. Okay, we get all the music for Windows 98 starting up. From the scope. Okay, let's take some time. So, cool. There's leases. And we have this leased a DHCP from the ThinkPad here. So we've got everything going again, once again, on the Netfinity 7000. It'll hopefully drop into the screensaver here soon. I'm going to get, so a little bit more than an hour for the live stream, and not any success again for getting a conclusion. Okay, so TurboWaves, and I was thinking that was 155 megabit per second. And the FDDI stuff, anyway, is interesting for just the fact of that you see so much. The adapters are, and certainly the supplies I have of that, getting stuff new in box and things like that. We could go through from, we could also put in that ISA version, just as a pure fallback too. The PCI doesn't work if there's not Windows drivers for that. And that would go in an ESA slot as well. So who knows? Why don't we maybe extend the stream that long? I want to get one in there and get it recognized. And so, I didn't put that in any tiling for the live stream. Let's go through. I want some success for once, some completion. Even though I put this, I've connected up the token ring hub off the side here. I put the cover back on. It's easy enough to just put back off to the side here again, even when it's running. No harm in it. Okay. I just have to make sure that I don't be fine. Okay. Okay. So let's actually go through. It doesn't feel warm or anything like that at all. I'm going to go through. I'm going to move. And let's go through. Let's just get that. I knocked my camera a little bit, my webcam out of kilter. It's almost kind of like a why not just extend. We don't have to end the stream after an hour or anything else. Let's go through and let's get some completion. Now the ISA card, I think is we'll look at it in a moment here, and we won't have to go through any. We'll look at the possibility of jumpers and things like that. I'm going to put this SCSI adapter or the bracket, the cable connection off on that spot. And unless I use it, I'll just replace it with a conventional bracket and use that header for something else, for another system to take SCSI out. We'll put the IBM adapter in the same spot. Here's that again, of course. I'll hold that up in a closer view for the webcam view. So I don't have the camcorder on. And this is in the anti-static packing. It has option diskettes and things like that in here. In fact, I need to leave that out because I need to image those. And we can leave the plug in there. Leave the plug in the back. going through, for this being an ISA adapter, I would, think that that would work in the, that's the irony, ISA being older. And here and here. I don't know to really necessarily just slip that plug out the back. This appears to be a regular height adapter, so we can even have that. And all that does is make sure that your fiber optics on there don't get any dust or anything else in there. So we're putting an older ISA adapter. Go. That'll kind of keep that bracket seated. Once I get the interlink cables, we'll leave the case open like that, I think, for the time being. Yeah, that looks real nice, actually, as it is. That bracket going down there and everything else. And hopefully, again, Windows should find the drivers for that. Okay. For all the non-fancy equipment I have here in the studio, we're sure getting the sun coming in and kind of doing some lighting. We'll see how Windows 2000 detects this, and ultimately, I just want an FDDI adapter, and this is the only other alternative I have other than the PCI or the Netfinity 7000. And it's interesting that if this would work, if the ESI adapter would work in like the 704 or whatever, that's not saying that we wouldn't be able to get it working here. I just don't think that Windows 2000 is going to have support for it. Again, kind of that round, but I mean, nothing wrong with that. That's an IBM FDDI adapter, even though it's ISA going in. Yeah, that I think Windows 2000 is really, really good about that as well, with the having that driver support that it just goes through. And the only time frame it just may be one of those odd adapters. And of course, I wouldn't expect it to be on the diskette or anything else. My noise cancellation just kicked out on my Anchor headset here. I still see audio, but I can hear a lot more of the. It just really amazes me that it's not doing the muting like it normally talks about of when I raise the boom. Okay, we counted the RAM. And we're not going to have a functional network, of course, until we get the fiber interlinks and get some way to patch things in. But at least we could be able to see whether it's going to have a recognized, whether the Windows 2000 is going to recognize that adapter. And that's going to be purely on the aspect too of I got all those microchannel adapters, and that's going to be the really interesting factor there is get an FDDI network and the possibility to getting a microchannel system linked in at that the speeds that the FDDI is capable of. And with having the adapter on the Netfinity 7000 being able to bridge in going through and identifying the SCSI. Seems like that's taking longer for some reason. Or hung. Or being a hardware conflict of that FDDI adapters, what we may have there. I think that list is there might be a conflict with that. Really going through and pulling the adapter. I don't know what that would necessarily, and that's just the interesting thing that a hardware conflict on the ISA side. I mean, the cursor was saying they're blinking. I don't know if that's truly hung. I maybe just to wait out if it gets up to that portion again and see if it's able to continue. And I think it was showing 4 items on the SCSI bus, and that's normally I think what it does with the drives I have in there and the controller should be the 4 devices. So like I say, I could go through and I could pull that adapter to see if this boots. Give this a second time. Starting up. Yeah, I've known some old guys to go through and just turn down their hearing aids too, or the just to drop down the noise level. I have tinnitus, so I get I still get all the noise and everything else, but definitely on this headset, you can, when they're running properly, it goes through and it does cut down the noise of the Netfinity running, even in the case with the summertime. So I'm going to have to start looking at the cooler again in here and running that. Okay. We're going to know in a moment. I'll bet you it's going to go through and it's going to stop on that sequence again. And I don't have any problem of just letting it run to see if it'll eventually figure out things. Fuzzy select. And that's the first channel, and then I have it, the second channel is where I have the items. So you just have the SDR controller there. And it'll go through the second one, second channel, and that's where I have all the hard drives and everything. I don't know why an ISA adapter would go through and necessarily interfere with that, especially since that other. So there we didn't get the, okay, there's the SDR. This is the point where it paused before. I don't think it's going to be able to continue from that. Might be interesting to go into the SCSI Select section later on. Just to be sure, let me go through, and I realize I seated that cover on the back of this. Even hope I could get the cover off with it pulled. Let's see what this does for a boot cycle. Now, in this case, the it does feel warm. Now there are jumper settings and IO addresses that we could go through and set. I'll have to see for the, and this is one of the things, you know, with now that we're reverting back to ISA, the fact of that we have safety details, we don't need to worry about those. Talking about read that first. Okay. And really, I should have been looking through some of this detail more for the cabling and things that it talks about. You have standalone, cascading, all sorts of setups here. There's the IO address, interrupt, with the ISA world, we get all back into this. So the default channel for DMA is 5. Default for the interrupt is IRQ2 and IRQ9. And the IO address default is 100. I'm guessing that's hexadecimal notation, probably so. And I could have gone in, I guess, maybe for, I don't know if the BIOS shows the interrupt stuff. Yeah, leave the switch number 4 at W2 in the position off. Otherwise, the system may hang after the installation of the adapter. And I would assume this has a, and this also has a silk screening of all the addresses on the adapters itself too. You look at all that information. There's the other switch blocks. So quite a number of switch blocks. It's even of the sense of seeing those. Yeah, so that got through with the adapter not installed, so it's got some conflict for, and for me going through and just popping an adapter in and not expecting any conflicts was kind of naive too. We may have to plan out for what IO address and interrupts and things like that would be. Typically, it was first and foremost, it was interrupts a lot of the time. DMA channel 5, probably not a conflict. And they even have the, looks like ROM address as well. Say 100 is default. W2. Yeah, the interrupt may be the first area. Hey, I want so much of a closure to this, that you might go through it, might do just Hail Mary on the internet, on, on the interrupt. I think I was almost a subconscious or Freudian slip talking about looking at information on the internet, because I, for so long, have been out of the ISA configuration aspect to but I would think that for the interrupt being set to the 9/2 is a pretty conventional so IRQ 15, that typically available, and I don't know why it would hang at the SCSI selection. It's supposed to be that you're only supposed to change things. You're supposed to change one thing at a time. Let's change the interrupt first. The next up would be like the IO address, I would think. As I say, the DMA stuff, I mean, it's possible. We might go through and look at the yeah, I'm wanting closure to getting this adapter recognized on the system. See what the interrupt change will do. I'm sorry, I've got to drink a little bit, get some intake here. Okay, or the SCSI ROM would load memory address. Okay. That's a possibility. I mean, and really for all that, they're expecting a more simplified ISA system, what that would go on. I didn't happen to see and it looks like that memory address aspect, and that would be, as most of the network adapters would have it, that shared RAM probably in within the space that that the system and the adapter are sharing a RAM area, and that's how they're able to exchange the information. And yeah, and that Control A would tell me. So I may go through that sequence just to see, although each one of these slight changes makes it I have to go through the reboot all over again. I want to see if it'll get through. And again, probably that IRQ saying that for something different, or to IRQ 15. And I do appreciate you being at the controls there, John. I could normally have the internet running too and try and be searching for looking up items and things like that, but it works good this way too. So there's the first channel of the SCSI. And I don't know why there's a separation where it loads that one first, and the way that the drive bays are organized is really kind of see, I would do a Control A sequence if that. And really thinking for interrupt conflicts probably would not be at this. Okay. Okay, so there we got the boot. That's interesting with just the interrupt change. Where we got the boot. But that's a cascading IRQ too for ISA. That IRQ2 /9. That as they originally did the PC, they had that as IRQ2, and then with ISA, adding on IRQ lines, they had 9 as effectively the cascading in for interrupts. So if it's that simple, that would be great. I mean, I could understand how that conflict would. Yeah, and there's some good choices as far as IRQs with some of that they standardized a lot of those, and I think IRQ 15 was a good choice sometimes when you had it. Okay. See what it does to recognize. That's interesting for all that. Not any hardware level recognition. on a selected device manager. Nothing flagged. Of course, it's not plug and play. Okay. It's not going to be on the list or anything like that. It's going to be, we're going to have to go through and add new device again. Because it's not going to show among the listed items. Network adapters. And it got through the network adapter section. I don't think it's going to detect it. Okay. Did not find any new devices. We're going to network adapters. We should have looked under the IBM listing before. Okay, a lot of Ethernet, a lot of token ring. A lot of X25 or X.25 SLDC, SDLC. So I don't see that listed either. Again, that have disk, that's going to be an older, I'm going to have the drivers of something that's going to be older than Windows 2000. And really jumping in this topic, of just slapping an FDDI adapter in there. I think I should have been expecting to fail a little bit more than just by going through and trying these adapters. I don't think this is a very standard adapter that we're putting in there, and it just looks like Windows 2000 may not. That may take a little bit more study to what drivers may possibly be out there for this FDDI adapter stuff. But yeah, coming up close to the 2-hour mark, we still didn't have any closure. I guess we can let the adapter get warm in there and things like that. And I don't expect Windows to detect it for any other time. But going through and naively putting the adapter in there, we just didn't get a solution get that working. I do want to get FDDI working in some form, whether it's and getting that bridged in. If I'm able to get a more of a network going, and especially those microchannel adapters, putting those in a system and getting them recognized. There appears to be, for the older systems, there is going to be the drivers and things like that. So we're going to do another attempt at this some other time. But I do appreciate everybody tuning in for this. And next weekend, I don't know. Like I say, we may look more at the bridging aspect of the Cisco. Maybe I'll be a little bit further along with that at that point. And also this 2210. It'd be real interesting to look that over as well, to see if we can get bridging working in the first place, and in a device that was designed to do that, and go from there to have a little bit of success. I have to get, and like I say, Q, I'm just jumping in for the internet side. I'm not doing as much research as I should be doing. I'm just jumping in and thinking that I'm going to have a topic that it'd be great. Windows 2000 recognizes an adapter, and that's not the case here. We're getting let down normally with Windows 2000. Normally has pretty good repository that it runs for the common adapters out there. So we'll get looking for the drivers and that aspect of what FDDI, when it really hit the high point, the operating systems. I know for this IBM adapter, it talks about, and even the 3Com talks a little bit about the Windows NT 3.51 and possibly the Windows NT 4 with the drivers. And of course, on the NT side, we're going to have to make sure that we do have the drivers. Windows 2000 is what made me a little bit more complacent in that regard, to thinking that the drivers might happen to be there. I know with NT4 they're not going to be. So, well, that's another stream. We at least had fun going through and plugging up in and powering up, going through those 5-minute boot up routines on the Netfinity 7000, and win some, you lose some. But look forward to seeing people next week. Hopefully, I'll get to the point of churning out videos during the week at some point. I'm still moving a lot of stuff around, still getting organized in a lot of ways too. So until next time, thanks for tuning in today. This is IBM Museum. That's all I have for now. Thank you.